Awards for Business Excellence through leadership and development have been facilitating and saluting organizations that stand out for the quality of their human resources. Such companies successfully develop and implement innovation strategies for learning and development. They also use people advancement as a tool for business excellence and create competitive advantage and growth through their training initiatives. The BML Munjal Awards are named after the Hero Group founder and Padma Bhushan awardee, the late Dr. Brajmohan Lal Munjal, who always attributed an organization's success to its employees and partners. Before we begin, here is a short video on the awards. Anshul, can you please play the video? Before we begin, I would like to request that questions that you kindly put your questions on Q&A section. I would now like to invite Mr. Ravi Hemnani, Head L&D, India Region, Siemens. Siemens, as many of you know, were winners of BML Munjal Awards 2021 under the private sector manufacturing category. Siemens needs no introduction. They focus on converting people, policies, and practices into a world-class learning experience for its 8,000 plus employees. Ravi is a passionate learning and development professional with excellent track record in the domain of learning, leadership, talent, and capability development. At Siemens, Ravi is responsible for orchestrating the entire L&D ecosystem and defining strategies for success through usage of technology in learning, fostering mindset shifts, driving cultural transformation with a high focus on creating a compelling learning experience. Now, I don't want to come between you and Ravi, so over to you, Ravi.
Thanks for these kind words, Jogedar, and thanks for the opportunity to put our case in front of the entire fraternity. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase what we do at Siemens and how do we make a difference in the way we learn and grow at Siemens. What I'm bringing to the table today, and while I speak, I'd like to share also my screen. So what I'm bringing to the table today is a small story of how we in the organization have transformed from where we were and to where we are. We participated in the BML Munjal Award in 2020. The applications for that we submitted in 2020, and with the pandemic hitting us, we won the award. And thanks to the entire BML team for coming all the way down to our office and handing over these trophies as well. And that goes to say that how passionate, not only us, how we are driving L&D, but also how passionate the entire BML team is for these particular awards and the rigor with which they drive it. So once again, thanks for this opportunity. What I'm going to talk about in my presentation, I think about 40 to 45 minutes, is about how learning has transformed in Siemens. And I've broken this into two parts. The first part is I'll talk about how learning has transformed in the organization from the time possibly when I joined 4 or 5 years ago, and till before the pandemic, and possibly almost the same time when we even submitted for the awards. But how we have moved from there and how we are really creating disruption in the way we learn. So that's the second part of the story that I'd like to share with all of you. So as we move along, technology is something which is very close to us. And I like to make use of technology and invite all of you to join me in a small poll. So what I'll request is if you can take your mobile phones and open menti.com, www.menti.com. You can also scroll the QR code that you see on the screen. And when you do that, you will reach a landing page. And I'll just move to that landing page in a moment. I really want you to just log in and get there. And Anshul, if I can request you to put this link and the code, the 50739070 on the chat as well for participants to view. So www.menti.com. And once you go there, you can type in the code 50739070. And when you do that, you will reach a screen which looks pretty much like this. Once again, the link and the code is right on the top of my screen, so you can get it from here as well. Once you log in, you will see some smileys, emoticons at the bottom. So just click on any one of them so that I know that you are already logged in, and also gives me an indication of how many people are already joining with me on the webinar. Fantastic. So I see people joining, and I'm glad that there are some devils also in the room. So thanks for being there, because I love to be challenged. So please, definitely you can ask me questions wherever you have doubts. So I'll wait for a few seconds till all of you can join in. And Anshul, just to understand, how many colleagues do we have on the call so that I know that when to get to the question?
We've got 50 plus people.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to move to the question, and while this is going on, let's assume that you're using already your mobile phone to log into this particular webinar, or logging through the YouTube. You can still open a new browser on your mobile or on your laptop as well, and still participate in this poll. So this poll will still work for you without you being disconnected from this place. So here is my question. What does growth mindset mean to you? You'll have 3 responses that you can type. So just type your responses and submit your responses. What does growth mindset mean to you? Take a few seconds while you all are typing. Fantastic. So I'm started to get some responses. Okay, so I see a word cloud building up, and interesting to see what responses come. And I understand that on the call we have colleagues both from HR and business. So it will be interesting to see the perspective coming in. And even if you're not logged in, you can still do that. It is www.menti.com. We'll use this platform across the call today. So please make sure that you are there on this platform. We'll have some fun also as we move along, right? So that's also something that I've planned for all of you. All right, so as this is building up, we'll come back and reflect on this in some time. So please keep your responses coming in. This question will be open for some more time. The code is right there. You can type in the code 50739070. It is in the chat as well for you to respond. All right. So what is very interesting for me to observe is from the responses that is coming, one of the things that is very clearly highlighted is continuous learning, development, progress, different approaches. Learning again and again is coming across, willingness to learn, adaptive, optimistic. So these are some of progressive. Again, that was the first word that came in the beginning as well. So these are some fantastic responses coming from a growth mindset perspective. Growth mindset to me, if you really ask me, is about thinking about future. So not getting stuck with the limitations of the past, but thinking about possibilities of the future. And learning, therefore, has a very, very big role to play in that. Now, this is a mindset that we are trying to develop in the organization. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a U-turn and going to talk about something very different. And the reason I want to do that is I want to build up a story for you to understand where we were and how we have transformed ourselves to where we are. So this story starts somewhere on about in 2014-15 when our new CEO and even the current CEO who is there with us still, Sunil Mathur, joined the organization, and he went and met a lot of our customers. Uh, while from a technology perspective, we were definitely considered as the best partner to reach out to. But when it comes to customer centricity or providing the right service at the right time and many such topics, we really did not fare up well. And these were some of the key pain points that came in. So much so that our NPS, the customer NPS score was 19. And that was a big alarm for us to bring about a lot of reforms in the organization of how we are working and how we can be more profitable. While this was happening, we also laid down a global company vision. So what you see on the left side is the global company vision that Siemens had laid down in 2015, a Vision 2020. And this translated to a India Vision 2020, what you see on the right side. And some of the key elements of the India Vision 2020, which is people, customers as partner of choice, employer of choice, and ownership culture. These were the bedrock for us to achieve the vision, the pillars for us to achieve the Vision 2020 for India. And therefore, L&D had a very big role to play in this cultural transformation to move from where we were to where we are. So what I'm going to talk about in my next slide is of how we have transformed ourselves in the learning space from being a team that was more into a coordination mode and regularly churn classroom trainings to become a partner for the business, partner with the business, consult with the business, and not only consult with the business, become anticipators of change. Sit with the business and talk about things that can come up, which sometimes business also cannot think about, and bring some disruptive thought processes and learning practices in the organization to a organization, an L&D organization, which is currently working on the future of learning. Across this journey for last 4 or 5 years or 6 years, we have been doing some exceptional work in the space of customer centricity, driving the learning culture, developing the key talent in the organization, developing the people managers in the organization, and developing our top sales talents on how do you have C-suite relationships. This was a time when we were actually hit by the pandemic, and during this period, and in fact, a few days before the pandemic itself, we had already decided that we are going to become a lot more digital in the way we learn at Siemens, looking at the way the company was also transforming. So somewhere in 2019 and even before the pandemic, we had launched our AI learning platform. But the pandemic actually gave us a push to move, or rather to promote this platform in a much more aggressive way in the organization. And the acceptance also became a lot more better. What you see on the icons that you see, these cups, are some of the accolades that we got from internally within Siemens, externally in India, and a lot of global organizations who came back and recognized the kind of efforts that we put down in development of our people in the organization. So there were a lot of game changers which really made a lot of difference in the way we learn and grow at Siemens. The two game changers that really brought in a big transformation in helping us achieve our business goals, apart from the many things that we did, were people matter and the work that we did with Howard on developing our top sales talents in the organization. So while the first program focused on converting best people practices into into people experiences and thereby create engaging teams, the second program largely focused on how do you develop your internal sales talents to have relationships with the top C-suites in the customer organization. How do you build relationships? How do you nurture those relationships? And how do you benefit from those relationships in terms of how do you create value for the customer and therefore increase the shareholder value for the customer? We have been showcasing these kind of work that we've done in various forums, and we won a lot of accolades around the kind of work that we have been doing. This has really been a transformational journey for us, especially in these two programs, apart from a lot of other programs that we have been working. Now, for us in L&D, what we believe is that whatever you do, if that cannot create a business impact, it doesn't make sense. So what I'm showing you is the slide that was used by our country CEO in one of his presentations in the Siemens India Business Conference in terms of how different initiatives have helped us achieve a business impact. And what you see over here in this slide on topics that are highlighted in the red border are a lot of topics that learning team has constantly contributed towards the achievement of the business impact. So these are some indicators of how we created the business impact. And similarly, these are some of the key absolute numbers of how L&D has played a role in helping business achieve its goal. For example, one of our goal for the Vision 2020 was to double up the profitable orders by 2020, and we were able to achieve that much in advance. Our trust index score on the Great Place to Work also increased by 22%. Not only that, our NPS score jumped from 19 to 72 in just 4 to 5 years. And that was something which was exceptional. Now, I'm not saying L&D was responsible alone for this, but I would rather say that L&D was a catalyst in helping us achieve all these initiatives in the organization. So while we did a lot of work in the business, working with the people, developing people capabilities and behaviors and mindset, L&D played a very big role. So our order grew year on year by 18%, and also the attrition remained low at 7%. And that was a clear indication of how we were creating business impact. Now, this is a place where almost the pandemic hit us, and we said that we need to look at the world differently. And in this period of rapid change, what we believed is that with the increasing complexity, the winners are going to be the people who can learn faster than the rate of change and faster their competition. While this was said by Tom Holt, this also becomes the philosophy of how we want to learn and grow at Siemens. So where do we go from here? How do we move from here? And this is something that was something that we are thinking from over a long period of time. So in October 1st, 2020, when our new CEO, global CEO, Roland Bush, took over the organization, we decided we'll move from being a conventional product and a solution company to be a leading technology company in the space of manufacturing, infrastructure, transport, and healthcare. Not only for today, but also for tomorrow, right? And we laid down our 4 strategic priorities for the company. The first one being customer impact. So how do you keep customer at the center of everything that you do? And how do you create an impact for the customer? Second one is how do you drive technology with purpose in order to create a shareholder value for the customer? How do you empower your people, focus on the outcome and just not the number of hours that people are spending in the time? So how do you really empower your people in a true sense? And last but not the least, growth mindset. Now, these 4 priorities have become the bedrock of how we want to learn, grow and learn at Siemens. And actually, this is how This is what is transforming the organization. While these are the business priority, we also thought that what is the kind of behavior that our leaders should demonstrate in order to meet these business priorities. So when we are thinking on those lines, we thought that we should rethink on how our leadership should look like. Uh, we thought that there is no perfect leadership, and you cannot create perfect leadership clones. We also decided that we'll abandon the complex static frameworks that we have in leadership. And we will have a dynamic look to the picture of leadership. What it means is that at Siemens, the new leadership narrative, which defines what behaviors leadership should demonstrate, there is no one definition of a leadership. There are no fixed competencies that leaders should demonstrate. Rather, what we are saying is that leaders should understand why a dynamic view on leadership is important. They should explore what our strategic priorities mean to them and their teams or their organizations. And very important, they should discover how their leadership matters to their team and thereby adapt the way they want to demonstrate leadership in the organization. So how does this translate to how we learn and grow at Siemens? We spoke about the top 4 company priorities. We spoke about the leadership narrative, but what is important is that how will this translate into how we learn and grow at Siemens? So what I'll do is, before I actually go into talking about how we learn and grow at Siemens, I again want to go back and to the same activity that we did, and I have certain set of questions for you. Before we talk about how we learn and grow at Siemens, I would want you to reflect and think about people around you. Think about all the team members that are there in your team, your subordinates, your peers, your organization that is around you, and think about their mindset. Yeah. And then give a response to the question once again on what I'm displaying on the screen. So what I will display on the questions that I'll ask subsequently now is 2 statements, statement A and statement B. What you'll have to do is you have to choose one of the statement and give your response. While you're responding and choosing the statement, you need to choose the statement that defines the current state of people around you. And when I say around you, majority of them. Remember, this does not include your state of mind. This includes the state of mind of people around you. So when you're thinking about this, think about all the people around you. How do they think? How do they act? And remember, it is not a desirable state. It is the current state. What is the current state of people around you? And here is my question. And I'll open the poll as well as we speak. So you have to choose between these 2 statements on what defines the current state of people around you, and submit your response. Again, the Mentimeter code remains the same. So I'm started to get responses. Remember, this is not about you. It is about people around you. What is their current state? And it's not about desirable state. How do you think that they currently behave? Or how do you think they currently act or think? The last time I got about 30+ responses. I'm assuming that we also get similar responses this time, or maybe more. And if you're just joined, then you can actually go to www.menti.com and type in the code 50739070. Remember, it is the state of people around you. I'm not talking about your mental state. I'm getting some mixed responses. I have 2 more questions immediately after this to follow. And again, we do the same activity there. You need to respond about the mental state of people around you. Okay, let's go to the second question. And once again, choose between the two statements. And remember, I'm talking about people around you. This time again, it is not about you. Okay, so I'm getting responses. Maybe another few seconds more, and then I'll move to my last question. What is the current state of people around you? And it's swinging more towards the left side this time. Maybe another 30 seconds, and then I go to the last question. Okay, so here is my last question. What is the current state of people around you? Okay, I'm getting much faster responses now. Fantastic. A few more seconds, and then I'll close the poll, and I'll show you the results after this. All right, so we got 31 responses. Looks like that's the number that we have. Let me go to the first question and see how you responded. The first question was about feedback means I've done a bad job, and then the second statement was feedback is a chance to learn. Let me ask you that if I ask you to respond, what is your current state of mind? Your current state of mind, what would your response be? A or B? If you can type on the chat and just submit your response. A or B? Remember, you have to choose send to everyone on the chat. A or B? What your response would be? If I ask you, what is your current state of mind? You have to respond on the chat on Zoom. Okay, so I'm started to get responses on the chat. Okay, so I'm getting mixed responses. A and B, both are coming here for me. What if I ask you the same question for the second option, option A or option B? I like to do things that I'm good at, and I like to do things that allow me to learn. Which one will be your choice, A or B? What would you choose? So Shashank says B, Pankaj says B, Renu says B. Looks like everybody is saying B here. Yeah, fantastic. And if I go to the last option, what would your choice be? A or B? Once again on the chat. Once again B. Fantastic. Now, what does this mean? When you are looking at these questions and reflecting for yourself, a lot of us are saying that I can learn from the success of others, or feedback is an opportunity to learn, or I like to do things that allow me to learn. So You're more futuristic. You are more from a growth, looking things from a growth mindset perspective. But when we're talking about people around you, a lot of us are talking on from a fixed mindset perspective for others. Remember, when they are responding, they are also talking about us, right? And I'd like to invite some responses on the chat. What is coming in your mind when you look at this analysis? That when I'm asking you, what is the state of mind for others, we are moving more towards the left. But when we're talking about state of mind for ourselves, we are moving more towards the right. Yeah, so you can type in your responses and give that feedback to me as well. Or if you want to just speak up, you can just raise your hand and maybe we can unmute somebody and you can speak up as well. Okay, so Anshul, just help me moderate this. If somebody is raising the hand, we can unmute someone. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. And I also see that there is a question coming up, so maybe we'll take that in some time. And let me just wind up with some more slides that I have. So what is important is that when we are looking at such an important topic like growth mindset, uh, it is not about what you think. It is about how you act in a particular situation or how you speak in a particular situation. So if you look at the typical iceberg, your actions and your behaviors is largely demonstrated, sorry, your behavior is largely demonstrated by the language that you speak and the actions that you take. So, and that is something which is observable. What is not so observable is things below the iceberg. So the L&D team largely has a big role to play, not only on things that is outside, but a lot of things at the inside. But remember, these are things that cannot be changed so easily. These are very difficult things. And that's a fundamental shift that we are talking about when we talk about growth mindset. Remember, growth mindset is a state of mind. And if you, so for those who understand this topic well, you'll understand that our mind remains in two states: fixed mindset and growth mindset. And the default state is a fixed mindset. That's where our mind always stays. So it's very difficult to move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset state, but all of us can train ourselves to move in that direction. But nobody can always be in a growth mindset. We all tend to come back to be in a fixed mindset state as well. And therefore, training your mind is extremely important, and learning plays a very big role in this place. I just showed you an example of growth mindset, of how important is learning, is the role of learning in developing growth mindset in people. And similarly, there are other topics, other priorities in the organization also that we are focusing on. So what we believe is that when the context changes, everything around us changes, right? And therefore, we are redefining the future of learning at Siemens. We believe that learning of the future is virtual. The disruptive changes require new speed and scale. You cannot be working in the same speed. It's not about the big eating the small, it is about the fast eating the slow, right? So you need to be fast and you need to scale up. And that applies in the space of learning as well. What is very important is that you need to have an ecosystem of learning, and our ecosystem of learning is known as My Learning World, which we have implemented, and I'll talk about it. Learning can be done virtually unless the main purpose is networking of physical experiences, or for example, peer-to-peer learning, right? So that's a place where you still need people to connect on a call or maybe in a real live world. Otherwise, things can be done virtually as well. We believe that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 don't even exist as of today. This is our belief, and we are working towards that direction. We are already looking that inside our organization, that we are creating new job opportunities, new roles. Our roles are transforming, and the role of L&D also is transforming in a big way. You realize as I speak along. 70% of the employees prefer to learn at work, and therefore your learning ecosystem should be aligned to provide those opportunities. 60% of employees prefer to learn at their own pace. So therefore, your ecosystem should allow them to learn anytime, anywhere, any device. And very importantly, it should allow them to choose a topic of their choice. Another challenge is that 50% of the employees prefer to learn at the point of need. They don't want to prepare themselves well in advance. So every time, is my learning ecosystem updated with the best of the content and the latest content, which is easily accessible and exciting for learner to learn. So what we believe is that we need to move from a set career pathway with a linear learning defined by employees to an individual career learning journey, which is self-directed, which is continuous, and it allows partnership with peers and leaders. This is our belief. We also believe that the jobs for life will need lifelong learning. We believe that attitudes and behavior need to change massively in the organization. Learning needs to become a integral part of everyday work life. Learner must be placed at the center of the individual growth, and that's how you should think about your learning ecosystem. Now, the magical alchemy, and this is something that we are working from an L&D perspective, is that if you want happy customers and if you want a sustained business growth, the formula is to develop leaders or employees in the organization who demonstrate self-leadership. Self-leadership in space of technical, functional, behavioral leadership in all aspects. And leaders and teams, or rather, let's say leaders develop engaged teams. So if people demonstrate self-leadership and we have engaged teams, then there is a high possibility that you'll have happy customers and sustained business results. And therefore, L&D again plays a very important role. Now, we all say that we need to move from good to great, but we believe that great is not enough. We need to move from great to beyond great. And let me explain the difference. When we talk about great, we talk about delivering outstanding total shareholder returns. But when we talk about beyond great, we are talking about delivering outstanding benefits to all shareholders. What is the value that you're creating for the shareholders? And that is what L&D, as L&D team, we are working towards. So, when all this sounds good, but what are we trying to do? So let me explain that bit as well in a few minutes. We have created an entire learning ecosystem. So let me show you how it looks like first. Our learning ecosystem is an AI-based personalized learning ecosystem for all its employees. And it's a strategic step towards creating a learning impact in the organization. We call it a 5A of learning. Anytime, anywhere, any device, any topic, and any form of learning. You learn from your laptop, you learn from your iPad, you learn from your mobile, you learn on any topic, any form of learning, be it videos, simulations, gamifications, articles, books, podcasts, video podcasts, name it, we have everything. On variety of topics, leadership, technology, culture, functional, soft skills, business, even creative. You want to learn a hobby, why not? Everything is on the platform. And this is the ecosystem that we are working on. We are trying to orchestrate this ecosystem. Now, for those who understand the dynamics of a platform ecosystem, you will understand this a lot more better. So our core leadership principles of platform-based ecosystems are guiding our work on building the Siemens learning platform. So what are the core leadership principles of an ecosystem, a platform ecosystem? The first is, how do you shift focus to the outside of your firm? I'll give you a simple example. Take example of YouTube. YouTube is a platform that Google has created, but where is the content coming from? The content is coming from the users. Users provide content and user consume content. So is your learning ecosystem designed to create this kind of a network effect where your employees, your customers are helping you to develop content which is consumed by your employees and your customers? So instead of thinking from an outside-in perspective, thinking from an inside-out perspective, how can you think from an outside-in perspective? How do you create more value than you can take? How do you design for network effects? How do you bring governance into picture? How do you rethink about control? Control from a typical L&D perspective is not about which program you conducted, how many trainings you delivered, but how do you rethink control? How can you become orchestrator of the learning ecosystem? And how can you inspire your ecosystem in the organization? So we at Siemens are building the Siemens learning ecosystem. That is exactly what we're doing. And this learning ecosystem, what we call it as My Learning World, it is designed for creating network effects. And we as learning team are moving from becoming the partners with the customer to become consultants, to become futurist anticipators, to become aggregators of learning. And now we are focusing on how do you orchestrate the entire learning ecosystem. So in true sense, our roles are getting redefined to become orchestrators of learning ecosystem. And when we talk about the learning ecosystem, just to help you understand how this ecosystem works, so at the center of the ecosystem is the platform, My Learning World. And on the right side, as you see, we have diverse learners who can find relevant content quickly and easy to use formats. Learners who are from different industries, from job families, not only from India, around the world, different hierarchies in the organization, white collar, blue collars. And on the other spectrum, you have the contributors of the content who can push targeted and adapted content and at scale. Not only external providers like LinkedIn, Coursera, Good Habits, and so on, but also internal. So how we can leverage the internal content that is available in the organization across the globe and bring it on the platform. Something that is happening in silos, how you can bring it to the scale in the organization. Organizations create silos to create centers of excellence in order to ensure that these centers of excellence collaborate with each other, these silos collaborate with each other to bring the bigger picture out. But what happens is largely these silos work in silos, right? So how do you bring these silos together and create those network effects to bring the content out and bring it available in the market, in the marketplace that we have created, the ecosystem that we have created on scale? That's the learning ecosystem. If you talk about the architecture, which is sitting at the back, this My Learning World for us is an IT-based cloud platform. And everything in Siemens is connected at the back end on this IT platform. So much so that we are working even with Microsoft to integrate MS Team with our IT platform. So that when an employee is doing a meeting with his team members, let's say a manager is doing a meeting with the team members, the MS Team apps will help the manager to pull up a small video on a topic that they're discussing directly from the app. And that's how we are trying to create integrations of learning in our day-to-day life. This is just one simple example of the million things that we are doing. Everything that an employee wants to learn at Siemens. Remember, any type, any device, any form, any format, any topic, and anywhere. Everything employee can learn through single entry. So the learn and grow framework of Siemens for an employee, the employee just needs to log into My Learning World and employee has everything on the fingertips. By the way, this is already up and running for us for last 2 to 3 years. And we are already gone a long way ahead in this process. Somebody who's interested, we can connect separately and I can even showcase what we are doing in depth and I can show you the real platform, how it works. But I'm just trying to help you paint a picture of how it's working for you. So learning becomes a key in powering cultural change throughout the company for us. From an internal HR initiative to a key enabler of a company-wide growth mindset. What does growth mindset mean to us? Be humble, be curious to learn, curious to think about future possibilities, show vulnerability, learn from mistakes, don't be afraid to do mistakes, and grow. Remember, growth mindset is something that you can learn. Sometimes you're not born with it. So you need to learn and you need to invest in yourself, right? So I'll end my presentation with this slide, but before I hand it over, I like to do a small survey once again with all of you and get your perspective of how do you learn best, right? So here is the survey coming for you. I learn best when. If you can just again go to the browser, the same code, the Menti code, the www.menti.com, the same code works. You don't need to enter it again if you already entered. And just key in your response. I learn best when. So I look forward to see your responses. Fantastic. So I'm seeing your responses. Fantastic. So some amazing responses coming. When I'm on right position, I'm empowered. I'm not in a threatening environment. Very important. So psychological safety, again, very important. Wonderful. So keep these responses coming. And I'm willing to take any questions that you may have. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. I hope I was able to add some value and share some perspective that we are working on within Siemens. And if you have any questions, then I'm willing to take right now. Happy to connect with all of you offline as well, if you like to. Back to you, Rovina.
Thank you, Ravi. I think this was a wonderful presentation and wonderful discussion that we had. We all learned how learning and development is working at Siemens and what kind of best practices are being followed. Before giving my commentary, in fact, I have a lot of questions, so I would straight come to questions, and let me shoot the first one. The first one is from Mr. Gaurang Sheth. How company values were integrated into your learning offerings?
So what we believe is that whenever you create any learning program, what is important is that you sit on the table with your customers. And when I say customers, I mean the internal customers, and then design the program. How do you contextualize your program? And I can give you a simple example. All our leadership programs start with a context setting program. Now, a typical context setting session where a business leader comes and speaks to the leaders, in many companies, I mean, I've worked with many companies, I've never seen any session going beyond half an hour or 1 hour. Guess what? We have been doing this session for almost a day, where we are bringing a lot of different perspectives on how can you learn in an organization? What are the company values? What are the company priorities? What is the vision of the organization? How are we headed? Where are we headed to? Why are we headed in this direction? And what is the role of a leader in this process? And when the employee goes back in a learning session, the whole mindset changes. Because more often than not, maximum of us, if you leave us alone and we don't focus too much on these kind of learning initiatives, we become 95%. You come 9 o'clock in the morning, open your laptop, open your emails, 50 to 60% time you're spending on the emails. And then meetings, of course, lots and lots of meetings, and the day is over. When is the time to upgrade yourself? When is the time to reflect on what company is talking about? Not many of us are spending that quality time to reflect on that. And we try to bring that element inside every program. So connect to the business is something which is very important in our program. So much so that our leadership development programs are not known as leadership development programs. The name of the program is People and Business Management. That's the name of our leadership development program, PBM. That's what we call it, People and Business Management. And that's how we try to integrate all the company values, not only the company values, but company priorities, the vision and the mission of the organization, and the purpose of why we are doing what we are doing in the program.
I think that's very important, Ravi, when we talk about the culture of the organization. And many years ago, I had, read a book, Culture Eats Strategy for lunch, and then there were a lot of, books, which came Culture Eats Strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner kind of things also. So it's absolutely important to integrate all the values of the company into our L&D sessions for sure. The next question is from Astha, and says, what are the key initiatives taken by Siemens driven by L&D that led to increase in NPS score?
Yeah.
You talked about an NPS score truly leaping.
Yeah.
So how did you do that? What were the initiatives?
So Asta, I spoke about two big initiatives that really helped us in a big way. And I'm going to jump back to my slide when I was talking about it so that you can relate to what I'm saying as well. It was not one initiative really that helped us. It was a journey. It was a journey of variety of initiatives that we put forward. For a company which was so stiff that everybody in the company comes with a very rigid mindset to becoming an organization which is future oriented, having growth mindset, and with leaders really demonstrating that behavior, it took us a lot of effort to get there. And not one initiative really helped us. So there was variety of initiatives that really helped us in a big way. The first in the list, of course, was the customer centricity. So we ran a customer first initiative covering more than 8,000 people in the company. And where it was not a typical training program, it was a program where we challenged the mindsets of people. We brought the customer in the company who was very unhappy and we challenged that. Why did you let this happen? What would it take for you not to let this happen? And we went back and challenged the managers that if your employees are committing that they will not let this happen, what are you doing about it? How are you ensuring that the people live up to their commitments? So we really did a lot of disruptive work in this space. We also worked in a big way to create a learning culture in the organization. And way back in 2016, we did a very big, massive learning week. Now, a lot of companies do learning week, but this is something very different. Some of the companies who are in the electrical electronic space must understand Electrama, which is a very big fest for people in this space. Imagine something of that zone created in learning. A huge laundry of programs that we deliver for the programs. You set it up on in a big exhibition for people to come and visit. You create opportunities for people to learn from 15 to 20 different formats of learning and then introduce those formats in the company in a very disruptive manner. So creating a learning culture, creating a customer-centric culture, and then very big topic, which I said, call it as a game changer, is this element where we worked on how do you drive ownership culture in the company, which eventually leads to high performance. So how do you convert your simple practices in the company, the policies into company, into amazing and great people experiences? And when you people in your company are happy, then definitely they'll take care of your customers, right? So how do you drive ownership culture? And then focusing on capability building through various initiatives, right? So, and this journey is still continuing for us. So this is not one thing that we have done. And remember, as I said, these are things that we did from a L&D perspective. But there are a lot of things that we did from a business perspective to make our systems and processes in line. For example, we introduced the key account management process, which was not existing before. We relooked at our policies to engage with the customers. We made our systems much more simpler to work for our customers. The collaboration between business units, we try to improve that. So I think you cannot say L&D alone was responsible for the jump in the NPS, but L&D definitely was a big catalyst in helping people think beyond boundaries, think out of the box. So working on mindsets of people, L&D played a big role. So I'm not sure if I was able to answer your question, but there are some.
I think this is wonderful, Ravi, and you're right. You know, L&D is a mindset. Actually, it's a mindset centric initiative, and your entire presentation was also towards growth mindset. So if I really talk about, the importance of mindset is absolutely important. This is a journey. It's a continuous journey. जिंदगी एक मुसलसल सफर है. जो मंजिल पे पहुंचो तो मंजिल बढ़ा दो. That's what we say. The moment you reach one milestone, you look for the next milestone. That's what we all call as best practice, or rather we call next practice sometimes. Especially in current environment, this has become very, very important. There's another one. I'm really tempted to ask this question. You talked about technology with purpose. So maybe you can just elaborate that a little bit more. Today we were talking about technology 4.0 and then technology 5.0. So, in technology 5.0, we are talking about people in the center of technology and not the other way around. Yeah. So this is exactly what I also talk about technology with purpose. So maybe you could give a couple of examples, if possible, of how does this work, technology with purpose.
So I'll give you two examples, one from a business side, one from a learning side. Yeah. We have been talking about technologies like IoT, cloud computing, deep learning, machine learning, AI, robotics. Robotics, of course, was there from before as well. Even AI was there. I mean, just that now data is available in abundance. We are talking more about AI, but AI was invented back in 1952. For
Right.
those who are not sure about it, yeah. So all these technologies are evolving for the very reason that there is an internet boom and there is abundance of data available, and we can do a lot more with that. Still, we are not yet there where we can use these technology to the best, because garbage is a garbage out. So if your data is not clean, you cannot make sense out of the data as much as you could possibly when the data is clean. So that if the entry point is not good, the exit will not be good. And these technologies, I think, will evolve as we move along with more internet boom coming in, 5G coming in. These technologies will evolve in a very, very big way. That's my view about it. Now, talking about technology with purpose, let's take a simple example of cybersecurity. For a lot of us, cybersecurity, when we talk about what do you understand by cybersecurity, you say, okay, I may get a phishing email or I may get a message that somebody will hack me. But what does this mean to business? Now, imagine there is, let's say, a vending machine kept in a hospital. This vending machine is connected through a network on a server, and from a server, I'm controlling and refilling in the vending machine different kind of biscuits, chocolates, and all of that. So when I'm in the hospital, I go to the vending machine, I swipe my credit card and pick whatever I want to eat. And remember, it is connected through an Ethernet port to the server, and somewhere sitting remotely, I'm controlling and refilling this. Imagine there is a cyber attack. I'm entering the cyberspace of the hospital, and I will have access to the records of everybody in the hospital. I can potentially change the medication of any patient in the hospital. And imagine if there is a VIP in the hospital. That's a big, big cyber threat. So as an organization, as a technology organization, how can you help your customers to be safe? And I'm talking just about cybersecurity. So again, using technology for purpose. This is a beautiful example of how do you improve or grow your business through cybersecurity. This is one beautiful example of that. So this is from a business angle. From a learning angle, and I just spoke about the learning ecosystem that we have created. How are we using the concepts of machine learning, deep learning, and AI in driving learning in the organization? So when I go to my homepage of my learning world, which is the ecosystem that we created, we call it as a Netflix of learning. So when I go to the platform recommends me learning based on my skills, my job profile, my learning patterns. Not only this, people in my job profile, what kind of learnings they are doing around the world. What are the topics that they're learning? What are the hot topics? And so on and so forth. And this is developing over a period of time with much more analytics. At the back end, we are doing analytics on learner behavior. What is the behavior of my learner? How often does he go on the platform? He or she goes on the platform. How often he or she spends time to complete the learning in one stretch? What's the average time the person is spending on the platform, and so on and so forth. So the KPI of learning is also moving towards the learner behavior driven KPI in a digital world. So again, how do you use technology to drive purpose of learning in the organization? And that's where the learning team plays a big role. So two angles, one from a business angle and one from a learning angle.
Learning angle. That's right. Thank you, Ravi. I am getting a lot of questions, but maybe the time may not permit me. So one last question, and Sanjay Sharma has asked a few questions, so I'm just taking one. Even though you had actually showed one of these slides where you were talking about, the business performance going up by 2.3x. And Sanjay wants, maybe a little on this. Says, can you share any success story with data telling a process improvement or enhancement of productivity through training?
Yes. And that is exactly the business case that I was talking about. The work that we did with Harvard, and not only with Harvard, with People Matter as well. These both have been game changers for us. We had done analysis to level 5 in both these cases, went down to even evaluate at a rupee level. Although I don't believe in this topic, that we need to calculate the returns on investment. For me, there is nothing like return on investment. For me, it is return on impact. What is the kind of impact your learning interventions, your OD interventions are making? I have never come across a CEO who has come back to me and said, I've invested so many rupees tell me how many rupees can you return to me. All they say is, how are they creating impact in the organization and how it is helping me. And that's the myth that many of us in learning teams are living with, that there is something like return on investment and we need to measure it. It is more about learning on impact. So as a learning professional, how can you show the impact of the learning interventions that you're doing? And that's very critical. Now, talking about the question that Sanjay asked, that how my productivity is increasing, and this is a beautiful example. I wish I have more time. I can possibly show data with you. We actually submitted this case study with BML as well, that how this intervention over a period of almost 1 year has really translated into improvement in the business orders that we got from the customers across 1 year. So this is a focus group intervention that we did with almost 60 odd people, and we could clearly see the impact on the business, validated by different levels of hierarchy in the organization. And that's why we believe that it is possible to create impact provided you've done enough research of what you're delivering and why you're delivering. And second, there is a leadership involvement. So this program, I had the buy-in from my CEO, my CFO, all the business unit heads, all my legal entity heads, who are involved at every stage in the program. So much so that when we're doing the program and when we're doing role plays, my CEOs of different business came down and they were acting as customers in the role play. And we were giving them real good examples of what they would possibly face when they go and meet the C-suite of a different organization. So what is important is how do you engage your top management in your programs will drive the results. I think it's also about perceived value of your programs, and the perceived value of programs will be visible only when your top leadership is involved. I saw one question that how do you engage your top leaders in the program? I think this question is also related with that at the beginning itself, if you are doing a good amount of work with your top management, sitting with them, consulting with them, asking them the right questions, and if required, even challenging them on their thought process, then I think this will work very well. And it really shows results.
Right. Thanks, Ravi. Wish I could ask many more questions. There are so many more questions. I have a lot of questions in my head, but I think this was a wonderful interaction, and all of us truly enjoyed this. I would like to, tell you that, you're all aware that Mr. Srilkant Munjal had authored a book, The Making of Hero. There's a short 1 minute AV. If Anshul, can you run that AV, please?
From the bylanes of Kamalia and the rugged landscapes of Quetta, they escaped to India with little more than the shirts on their backs. In the partition-ravaged cities of Amritsar, Agra and Delhi, 4 of the 6 Munjal brothers, Dayanand, Satyanand, Brij Mohanlal and Om Prakash, built their business part by part. Armed with nothing but self-belief, the brothers began with trading and then manufacturing bicycle parts, which soon evolved into the production of bicycles. For post-independence India, the Hero bicycle gave wings to the aspirations of the common man. By 1986, 30 years after its inception, Hero Cycles became the largest bicycle maker in the world. In the next 15 years, the motorcycle venture, Hero Honda, repeated the feat, and both pole positions are held firmly even today. Hero's story is about humble beginnings, the refugee entrepreneurial spirit, hard work, and zeal. It looks looks at how four brothers with little formal education created a world-class enterprise. This is the incredible tale of a principle-driven organization that created exceptional value for a society that desperately needed transportation. How did four brothers with distinct personalities work like a cohesive unit and build a manufacturing behemoth? How did they synchronize their strengths? How did they resolve their differences, if any? The story goes deep inside the family spirit, the parivar, that brought together employees, customers, channel partners, suppliers, and local communities to create success, welfare, and well-being for millions. This is the making of Hero. Four brothers, two wheels, and a revolution that shaped India.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Ravi and all the participants in this for a wonderful session. And there's a lot to learn for this. So thank you very much. Until we meet next time. So namaskar.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Munjal, are we out of the main room?